It's the Lowell Zoning Board of Appeals, a public hearing. Today's date is January 28th, 2013, and I'd like to remind you, if you wish to speak, you'll have to sign in and state your name prior to speaking. So I just want to give you a reminder. We have two petitions on for this evening. The first is a petition for two variances. The applicant is Hong Kong Inc., located at 576 Middlesex Street and 11 Grand Street. And do we have a representative from Hong Kong Inc. this evening? Here tonight? No? Okay. Well, we do have a request for a continuance. Give me a copy of the letter, continuance. I think it's still down there. Thank you. We have a letter dated January 28, 2013, from Flood Law Office, from James Flood. Dear Mr. Jinowitz, I am writing this letter as attorney for Hong Kong Inc., the petitioner in the above entitled matter, scheduling for hearing on Monday, January 28, 2013. On Friday afternoon, I received an email from Dick Baumer of Nobis Engineering, which included a copy of a letter sent to William Bailey regarding this matter. I spoke with Mr. Baumer on Friday afternoon and advised him that I would like to meet with him at his office with representatives of Nobis and my clients to discuss the concerns raised in this letter. Mr. Baumer indicated that he was acceptable to him and he would contact Mr. Corneff to see when he would be available in Lowell to meet. The purpose of this letter is to request that this matter be continued until your next scheduled meeting on February 11th, 2013, to allow me to meet with representatives with Nobis and hopefully satisfy their concerns. Thank you in advance for your anticipated cooperation, James Flood. So we'll submit this into the record. And for those of you that are here on this petition, we're not going to open the hearing. It's going to be continued, if the board sees it fit, till February the 11th, 2013, and you will not be notified by mail. That's 2 weeks from tonight, and you'll have to be here. So with that being said, I need a motion.
Through you, Mr. Chairman. The matter before us is ZBA 2012-57 for a variance at 549 Middlesex Street. I make a motion to approve continuance to February 11th, 2013 meeting.
Need a second?
Second.
Roll call, please, Joe.
Mr. Ahern.
Continue.
Mr. Belanger.
Continue.
Ms. Carino.
Continue.
Mr. McCarthy.
Continue.
Mr. Perrin.
Continue.
Okay, again, just a reminder, those of you who are here or at home interested in this petition, you will not be notified. Please be here 2 weeks from tonight on February the 11th. Thank you very much. Okay, the second petition we have on the agenda this evening is Bruce Zabathy of 686 Varnum Ave. And he is seeking a variance for a paved parking area in front of his home. Is Bruce Zabathy here this evening? If you may come up, address the board, and tell us what you'd like to do. And please sign in and state your name, please.
Where's your papers? You bring your papers?
Okay. I don't know how would I start. There's not really a public speaking person, so.
It's okay, do your best.
Well, the reason why I'm here in front of you because I wanted to keep the pavement as it is because it's a safety reason. We don't have to actually, back up into the main road and then pull back into the driveway. Pretty much, that's what it is.
Okay, is that all? Okay, thank you very much. I'll open the hearing up to the public. Is there anybody here that would like to speak in favor of this petition? In favor? Sir, go ahead.
Well, you can see.
My name is Glenn Zidane. I live at 694 Varnum Ave. I've been a resident of 694 Varnum Ave for a good 22 years now. Have been resident with the previous owners prior to Bruce moving in. And I must say that I know the petition is to allow, or for the variance to allow the driveway to be in place because of the, I think it's a law about 40% or 40% of the yard has to remain. And I just want to speak in favor of it. I think, you know, the fact that the property is very small and most families have 2 cars today, that if they were, if this variance didn't go through, they really wouldn't have enough space. It's a 2-family house, and each family has 2 cars. And if they didn't have that driveway, which, by the way, I think makes the property look much better than it did previously, because it was on the north side of the house. There's trees in place, and grass just doesn't grow there. It becomes mud during the springtime. It really doesn't look that good. With the driveway in place, it looks very nice. They keep it well maintained. They put flowers and mulch around the tree. But more importantly, like Bruce said, I think it's a safety issue. You know, with 2 cars per family, at least 1 car on each side would have to be in the road. And I know for myself, to try to get in and out of that driveway on a very busy road such as Varnum Ave in the morning, it's very, very difficult. And trying to look beyond a car to try to get out would make it even that much more difficult. So from my perspective, I think it's I think, one, it raises the property values locally within the neighborhood. It looks very nice. They keep it well kept. I'm sure it's going to be a lot more easier for them to maintain as far as snow blowing and stuff is concerned. But from my perspective, I'd really like to see the planning board push this variance through.
Sir, does your property directly abut the subject property?
Yes, it does.
It does, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else like to speak in favor of this petition? In favor?
How are you? Robert Iannuzzo. I live across the street, 691 Varnum Ave. Pretty much echoing what Glenn said, just a curb appeal, safety issues. A lot of marathons go up and down that road now. 2 bike lanes, there's less cars on the street on that stretch of Varnum is a very safety thing, you know. Just a lot of cars speed up and down, just getting the cars off the road. Same thing, just makes all more sense to have a driveway there. So I have nothing against it. Most of the neighbors around here don't have anything against it. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else like to speak in favor?
My name's May Pitvisai. I'm his wife. I actually started this whole thing. I was the person that contacted the contractor, and literally when we went through this whole process, he told me that, you know, he's got the permit, all these things, but anyways, our main issue is that it's backing up from the driveway. It's very dangerous. It's a main road, cars, so many cars. There's a lot of people walking. We can't really park on the off-street parking because there's so many cars coming in, and there's high curve. So my brother lived next door. He's got 2 cars. I have 2 cars. Literally, it doesn't really fit 4 cars if we would not be able to have this space. So I certainly agree with my husband that it is a dangerous spot to be parking on off-street parking. So it is a safety issue. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Is that-
Is that it this evening for those who want to speak in favor of this petition, in favor of 686 Varnum Avenue? Hearing none, that portion of the hearing is now closed. Anybody like to speak in opposition? Opposition, 686 Varnum Avenue.
Good evening. My name is John Hamblett, 495 Varnum Avenue. I'm co-chair of the Pawtucketville Citizens Council, and we have been asked by residents of the neighborhood to speak against the request for a variance. 3 required findings have to be reached in the affirmative for granting a variance. And the courts have ruled that a failure to establish any one of the following findings is fatal. Finding number 1, soil, shape, or topography. This finding implies there is something wrong or something unusual that is evident in the soil, the shape of the parcel, or the topography. There has been no evidence produced that points to unique attributes to the soil, to the shape of the parcel, or of the topography. Therefore, the request for a variance does not meet this finding. Finding number 2 is hardship, and I don't think there's any question the applicant bears a personal hardship. But the Massachusetts courts have held that the hardship must relate to the premises, not the person, for the variance which is being sought. Massachusetts courts have routinely rejected personal hardship as meeting the hardship test. The variance is being requested for a self-created hardship. An existing driveway was expanded without the appropriate permit. Had the permit been pulled, the applicant would have discovered the violation. Self-created hardships are consistently met with hostile review from the courts. Therefore, the request for a variance does not meet the second finding. Finding number 3 is the public good. It's the most subjective, that the applicant has not demonstrated how the blacktop front yard contributes to public good. In fact, we are very concerned that approval of this variance would establish a very harmful precedent in Pawtucketville. We are dedicated to preserving our neighborhood character as a suburban neighborhood. A front yard covered with asphalt runs contrary to the suburban neighborhood of Pawtucketville. And just another comment under the heading of public good, the applicant states in his application that 80% of the rainfall flowed toward the wetlands. And I know this is slightly outside the scope of the ZBA, but increased flow of water into the wetlands or redistributed flow under the property of others are violations of the stormwater management regulations. Likewise, creating an impervious surface increases impurity runoff, and that results in contaminants in our water supply. Increased water velocity as a result of increased volume leads to greater erosion, and those are also violations of the stormwater regulations. While I understand it's not the purview of this board, these events are definitely not in the public good. Therefore, the request for a variance does not meet this finding of public good. In our opinion, none of the 3 findings have been proven, and it only takes one. Therefore, this request cannot go forward. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Anybody else like to speak in opposition? In opposition, 686 Bottom Avenue. Last call in opposition. Hearing none, that portion of the hearing is now closed. Joe, before I open it up to the board, a couple things here. Obviously, I'm sure the board members got by there, and it's obvious the work has been done. A couple things. So, how close the proximity to the wetlands? Now, it's my understanding that the rear of the yard is within the limit, but the driveway would be out of the bounds. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's pretty accurate. The driveway area of concern tonight is probably approximately 175 to 200 feet away from the wetlands area and about 150 to 175 feet away from floodplain.
Okay, although the petitioner is claiming, you mean they were swerved by a contractor who claimed he was pulling permits and did not, if they did go through the proper channels, would they have needed conservation approval?
No, because of that proximity, it's anything 100 feet or less. We'll have to go in front of the Conservation
Okay.
Commission. This is over that.
Okay, and my second question is, how did this come about? How did this matter? It's been completed there for a little while. How did this come about to your office?
The engineering department, I don't know if they had received a phone call or if somebody had been driving by. They're the department that typically issues permits for paving. So someone in their office had discovered that this particular area had been paved without a permit, brought it to our attention, see if it was something that could be allowed through zoning or not. Upon our review, it was discovered to be a zoning violation, in which case their options were to either remove it or to try to seek a variance for it. And as you can see tonight, they chose the latter.
Okay, so any paving would have required a permit, but not, how much are they over to require a variance, I guess is my question.
It's hard to say. I'm not really sure what the pre-existing condition was, to know how close they were to the 50% requirement. So it's hard to say how close they were before. Now they're pretty well over. Maybe there's potential that it could meet it if it's redesigned in some way, but right now it's significantly over.
Okay, so you're saying it's borderline, and it could very well meet, they may not need a variance if redesigned, is that what you're saying?
It's hard to say. I mean, right now it's well over. If it was torn up, at least partially, there's potential it could be, but it would have to look at it more closely.
Okay, Joe, I mean, I know it's not your fault, but I think there's a large gray area here for a mistake or something like this to be made, so I think it's maybe something we need to look at, something like this in the future. So, but in the meantime, I'll open it up to the board. Dennis, I'll start with you. Go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I have a couple questions for the applicant, if I could. It seems
Bruce,
like
yeah.
the piece of land adjacent or to the west of your house, is that part of your lot as well? Because you seem to have part of a driveway that accesses that land?
That's,
I could probably speak a little bit to that. There's a
Sir, you'll have to address from the podium, please. Thank you.
I know that there's a piece of property that was, because I had constructed a garage probably 10 years ago, and I approached the Lowell City Council about getting, there used to be a street there, believe it was Melrose. It was an extension of Melrose. And at that time, the previous owners, Bob Baker and myself, approached the city about purchasing that under the neighborhood purchase program. But because there was a street there, we had to petition the city to eliminate the street. And one, the street could never go there to begin with because there's not enough clearance between the applicant's rear door and where the street would be. It's probably a difference of about 8 feet from the door. So the city approved the motion to eliminate the street. So the property fell back to the heirs of George Fall, which probably dates back to the early 1800s. And we approached, Robert Baker and myself, who was the previous owner, approached the city about buying it under the neighborhood program. And we were told by the planning board that it had to go back through the process of, I guess, being foreclosed. So it would go back to the previous owner's family and whatever. So at this particular juncture, I'm not sure where that property stands. I can only assume, because I saw it under the one of the sale programs or auction programs, that it was that land was available. But certainly, as a butter to Bruce, we'd be interested in buying that land from the city as a under the neighborhood program, should it be be necessary. It's non-buildable land, one, because of the wetlands, and two, because of the actual width of the property is probably the width of a street.
Okay, so just to be clear then, the pavement that's beside your property that you seem to have a driveway on is not on your land. It's on the heirs of George Fall's land. Is that correct? Or the cities?
I would say that probably a portion of what they had paved does fall under that area.
It's a sizable portion. It's actually 16 feet wide. That's not on your property. It's on someone else's property. So, okay. So I have a thank you. I think I understand it. I have a question for you, Joe. So there's 3 duplexes there, and the adjacent duplex at 680 also has a paved front yard, very similar to the paved front yard at 686. Do you happen to know the circumstances for 680?
No, I'm not aware of how that front yard was paved, if it was even a paving permit to do so.
And then I noticed the third duplex that's probably 676 or 678, whatever it is, they're driving on the front yard. There's rut marks there for where they park. So there's definitely a scenario there where people feel it's important to drive on the green space. Either there's too many cars, or there's not enough room, or the curb cuts are odd. I think the curb cut that's in front of 686 creates an odd condition for them to try to put 4 cars. And are they supposed to have 4 cars with that property, on their property?
It's 2 parking spaces per unit, so technically, yes, 4 parking
How
spaces.
can that possibly leave 40% of the green space with 4 cars in that? It doesn't seem possible to provide 4 spaces there. The site's only 50 feet wide, and you figure 8 feet per space, that's 32, minimum, probably 9 feet is the standard parking space. So that's 36, almost 40 feet. That leaves you 10 or 12 feet potentially, at best, for a green space.
Yeah,
It seems
would
to
be
me that
challenging for
40%
sure.
would be closer to 20 feet. So they never could have had 40% green space there.
yeah, directly in the front, no. I mean, maybe an idea at one point was that it would have been off of Melrose Ave, some
But
kind
that's
of
not their
parking area.
land.
But correct.
So they could never have made, I think, the 40% rule to be chastised for not doing it. They probably never were intended to have that in there. They probably were always under that, I think.
Most
And
likely.
then there's a severe hardship, I think, with the location of the curb cut and the tree taking up probably, 15 feet of width there. I think there's a lot of hardship here with the geography here. And the fact that they're obligated to have 40% and still maintain 4 cars, they can't get by the house. The house is on 2. I don't think it's possible. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. Kevin?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I somewhat echo Dennis's thoughts. I'm of, in all due respect to the Pawtuckaville Neighborhood Association, I'm in the opposite view as far as the hardships on all 3 factors. I think the shape of the property being only 50 feet wide when it calls for 90-foot frontage, the shape of that alone being so narrow calls for, like Dennis said, not being able to drive around the property or get to the back of it for additional parking. They're allotted 4 parking spots for a duplex, and I don't see how it would be possible otherwise. And then from just a hardship alone, I think safety alone is hardship enough. I've lived in a similar situation on a main road, and remember having to back out of it and had to go through a similar process to pave that to be able to turn around. It's not an easy process, and I know people do drive very fast down Varnum Ave. And then from a public good standpoint, it's my opinion, and Joe, maybe you can answer this, can they park on the street at this location? Is it legal to park on the street?
As far as I know, there is parking allowed on the street here. It doesn't count towards your parking requirement,
Right.
but it should be parking.
I guess it goes towards the public good in my opinion, and I think that's why some of the neighbors are here. With the curb cuts that Dennis mentioned already being a little bit odd, but having 2 or 3 cars parked in front of that, and then trying to back out for not only themselves but the neighbors alone, I think would cause a lot of safety concerns, and I think that causes the public good hardship. So in my opinion, it does meet all 3 criteria. So those are my thoughts on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Gary?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I have a couple questions for the petitioner.
Bruce?
And my first question would be is, how long has the pavement been down?
I think it was,
We bought the house in, the pavement, I think it started July. Like I said, I was the person who contacted the contractor. This is the first time I bought the house. I had no idea. He told me that he got the permit, everything was fine, so I said, go ahead and do it. So that's how we end up here.
Okay. At first look, my question would be to the contractor, where he didn't gain access to permitting, is what do we have to know that the pavement is correctly laid down as far as the impervious site itself and then the runoff? What do we have other than, do we have any, you didn't bring anything with you today to show off that there's proper runoff even though there's not enough
Well,
space?
we do have his business card at home. I didn't really bring anything. Like I said, if I know that this was, against the law or something that's illegal that we're not supposed to do, I wouldn't be in this situation. Like I said, I bought the house, my first time buying the house, and I was led to believe that he got the permit. So he told me that he got the permit, he's gonna go right ahead and pave it, and that's how we started.
That would be a host of concern for me, is that the pavement was laid down. How do we know it's sloped properly? How do we know the runoff is proper? Generally with the permitting process, that does all that, and the engineering office does go out and make sure that happens. So that is a concern. My second thought would be is you do, with the configuration of the property and the 40% is just, you were never able to attain that in the first place. So I was just kind of curious. I thought you might have had some paperwork with you, but that's all I have for now, Mr. Chairman.
I can submit it, I can, bring it over on next day. I mean, I do have it at home. I just came directly from work and I wasn't prepared. But like I said, I mean, we initially bought the house and literally there's no parking space for us at all with 4 cars. We try to park on the street and the road is pretty busy. It's very busy. The curbs is so high. Literally, you cannot. It's not safe for you to even get out the car. It's very unsafe. So.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Gary. Melissa?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening. I actually don't have any additional questions, but I do want to echo what my colleagues have said, Dennis and Kevin, about just meeting the criteria of a variance. I think you do have a tough space to work with, and I do see public safety and hardship as important pieces as well in this application. So, thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. Van?
All the questions that I had, Mr. Chairman, has been asked by my colleagues, so I have no additional comments.
Okay, thank you. Well, I have to agree with my colleagues in many aspects that I do see a hardship. The home is only located, 24 feet from the street compared to how, long the lot is. I mean, it's a nice lot and you have a nicely maintained home. So I think, I share the same comments as the other board members that, I do see a hardship here with the location of the home is on the lot. I was out there this afternoon and I pulled in and, I walked around the property and it seems to be done professionally. I mean, I'm no expert, but, the real kicker was when I got in my vehicle and headed back on Varnum Ave, I'm like, okay, I know why, I know what they're trying to accomplish. So, you created a bit of a horseshoe driveway side, so which, definitely makes it safer for you to pull out on that street. And I think, I know I share the same concerns as my board members as far regarding safety, because it's treacherous. There's a bit of a bend where, the speed limit's 30, but most cars are unfortunately exceeding 30 miles an hour, in my opinion. But, you claim the contractor told you he had pulled permits for all this, is that
Right.
correct? Okay.
Right. Like I said, I had no idea. He told me that he got the permit here from City Hall and that everything was taken care of and went and just paved and he said, it's fine, perfectly fine. So, and then a few weeks later, I got a letter from from you here. Like I said, I mean, I don't intend to do this at all. And initially, when we bought the house, we understand that we're gonna have 4 cars, and literally, you can't, it doesn't fit 4 cars. And when we have families coming by, we normally just ask our neighbors if they can park at their parking space, because there's not enough room and you can't park on the street. There's so many cars going back and forth.
Okay, I tend to believe you that, you were perhaps misled, you paid for services, and you thought the contractor went through the proper channels, and unfortunately, he did not. So I think you've learned a lesson in the future. If you want to do any more building or expanding, please
I will.
notify the proper city departments, okay?
Thank you, I will.
Now, Joe, regarding Gary's concern of stormwater runoff there in the neighborhood concerns, what can we, I just like the engineers go out and take a look and make sure there's nothing drastically wrong out there. I mean, it was done, it, again, appears to be done professionally, but I'm I'm an untrained eye at the same time. So, I want this looked at by city officials to make sure nothing is tragically wrong. Is that possible?
Yeah, the engineering department could go out and inspect the work that was done. In terms of state stormwater regulations, single-family homes aren't subject to them, but anything over that are subject to stormwater regulations. So they would inspect it for meeting those requirements.
Okay, well, can you set that up? I don't know how we still have to vote on it, but, I would like to address those concerns. Again, it seems okay out there, but, you never know. I don't know who this contractor was, or, I don't know anything about them, so, but I do want to look at to share, again, Gary's concern and the neighborhood's concern as well.
Sure.
Okay, to the neighbor group, thank you for coming out. I do understand your concerns and why you're here, and they're valid, but, this board sees it clear that there's a hardship there with the location of the home, and certainly a safety issue, and I don't think anybody can argue that. If you go there and pull in the driveway, I mean, this family needs some help, and, it's a safety issue there, and I think we all see that clear. So with that being said, I need a motion.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, the matter before us, ZBA 2012-58, for a variance at 286 Varnum Ave, and make a motion to approve.
I need a second.
I'll second that.
Now, before we go into a vote, do we need a condition of city inspection of city engineers? Is that, do we need to condition that, Joe, or will you just set that up?
A condition wouldn't hurt.
Okay, all right. I'm sorry, Gary.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, the matter before us, ZBA 2012-58, 686 Varnum Avenue, for a variance, I make a motion to approve with a condition that the city engineer's office makes approval for the paved area.
Need a second?
I'll second that.
Roll call, please, Joe.
Mr. Ahern,
Approve with conditions.
Mr. Belanger,
Approve with conditions.
Ms. Carino,
Approve with conditions.
Mr. McCarthy,
Approve with conditions.
Mr. Perrin.
Approve with conditions.
Well, congratulations, you've been approved unanimously, and you'll have some paperwork to sign, and there's a 20-day appeal period as well.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir, ma'am. Anywhere else? I did it? Okay, good. Appreciate it. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you so much.
That'd be awesome.
Mr. Clerk, is there any other general items this evening? Minutes or
No other business, Mr. Chairman.
other business? I need a motion to adjourn.
Through you, make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second?
All in favor, say aye. Meeting adjourned.